You send a text. Something simple, low stakes, nothing dramatic. And then nothing comes back. Not for an hour, not for the rest of the day. You check your phone more times than you'd ever admit out loud, and somewhere around the fourth or fifth check, you notice something strange. Your chest actually hurts. Not hurt as a figure of speech. An actual, physical, tightening ache sitting right in the middle of your chest, like you got hit with something you can't quite point to. That's not you being dramatic. That's not you overreacting to a delayed text message. That ache is real, and it's about to make a lot more sense than you think. Here's the question worth sitting with for a second. Why would something as small and abstract as being ignored, excluded, or turned down produce a sensation that feels almost identical to something as concrete and physical as an actual injury? Getting left out of a group chat and breaking a bone are not remotely the same category of event. One is social, one is biological. So why does your body seem so confused about the difference? The answer starts with a psychologist named Naomi Eisenberger, and her research is the kind that quietly rewrites how you think about your own body. Eisenberger wanted to know what was actually happening inside the brain during social rejection, not metaphorically, but literally, down at the level of brain scans and neural activity. So she and her team designed a deceptively simple experiment using a virtual ball-tossing game called Cyberball, originally developed by researcher Kipling Williams to study exactly this kind of social exclusion in a controlled setting. Here's how it worked. A person lies inside a brain scanner, playing what looks like a harmless, almost childish video game. 3 players toss a ball back and forth on screen. The real participant and 2 computer-controlled players the participant believes are also real people. For a while, everyone gets included normally. Ball goes to player 1, back to you, over to player 2, back to you again. Nothing unusual. Then at a certain point, the other 2 players simply stop throwing the ball to the real participant. They keep playing with each other. The person in the scanner just watches, left out, excluded from a game that, on paper, means absolutely nothing. And this is where it gets genuinely strange. During that exclusion, Eisenberger's brain scans lit up in a very specific region called the anterior cingulate cortex, a part of the brain heavily associated with the distress signal of physical pain. Not a region tied to sadness in some vague, poetic sense. The actual pain-processing machinery of the brain, left out of a video game with fake strangers over a ball that didn't even exist. And the brain responded using the same alarm system it uses when your body is actually being hurt. Let that sit for a moment, because it's a genuinely bigger claim than it might first sound like. Your brain isn't treating social rejection as merely similar to physical pain. In measurable, observable ways, it's using overlapping neural real estate to process both. Which raises an obvious next question. Why would evolution build a system this seemingly excessive? Why would getting excluded from a pointless game trigger anything close to the same response as, say, touching a hot stove? The answer comes down to something brutally practical about human survival, and it has almost nothing to do with feelings in the way we usually think about them. For nearly all of human history, being part of a group wasn't some optional, nice-to-have social preference. It was a matter of life and death in the most literal sense possible. A human alone on the savannah or alone in a harsh winter landscape without a tribe to share food, shelter, protection, and body heat was a human whose odds of survival dropped catastrophically. Exclusion from a group wasn't an emotional inconvenience. It was frequently a death sentence. So evolution appears to have taken a shortcut. Instead of building an entirely separate warning system just for social threats, it looks like it repurposed an alarm system that already existed and already worked extremely well. Physical pain. Physical pain evolved specifically to grab your attention immediately and demand action, because ignoring a broken bone or an open wound could genuinely kill you. By wiring social exclusion into that same urgent alarm circuitry, evolution essentially guaranteed you couldn't casually shrug off being cut out of the group. It made social rejection feel like an emergency, because for most of human history, it functionally was one. This is where the research takes an even stranger turn. If rejection genuinely overlaps with physical pain at the level of brain circuitry, could something designed to treat physical pain also dull the sting of social rejection? Researcher C. Nathan DeWall decided to actually test this directly, and the result sounds almost too strange to be a real published study, except it is. In DeWall's research, participants took a regular, everyday over-the-counter pain reliever, acetaminophen, the same active ingredient found in common brands like Tylenol, over a period of several weeks. compared to a placebo group taking an inactive pill instead. The group taking the actual pain reliever reported measurably lower levels of social pain and hurt feelings during that same time period. Brain scans backed this up too, showing reduced activity in that same rejection-related brain region among participants taking the real medication. Sit with that for a second because it's genuinely wild. A pill originally created to dull a headache or a sore back appears to also soften, at least somewhat, the specific sting of feeling excluded or rejected. That's not something you'd expect if social pain and physical pain were operating through two entirely separate, unrelated systems inside your brain. It's exactly what you'd predict if they were sharing meaningful biological overlap all along. Now, here's an important clarification worth being precise and careful about because this research gets misunderstood constantly online. This doesn't mean you should reach for a pill bottle every time someone leaves you on red. The overlap between social and physical pain doesn't mean rejection is only, or even primarily, a chemical problem with a chemical solution. What it actually reveals is something deeper and honestly more useful. Emotional pain isn't some lesser, softer, more in-your-head cousin of real pain. At a fundamental biological level, your brain is quite literally treating it as a genuine, credible threat worth responding to urgently. This helps explain something that probably feels obvious once you hear it stated directly, but rarely gets acknowledged out loud in everyday life. When someone says a breakup hurt, or getting excluded from a friend group hurt, or watching your name skipped over for a promotion hurt, they are not exaggerating for dramatic effect. They're describing something closer to a literal physiological event than most people ever consciously realize while it's happening to them. Think about how differently you'd probably respond to a friend who tells you they're struggling because of a broken bone, compared to a friend who tells you they're struggling because they got excluded from something socially. One gets immediate, automatic sympathy, ice packs, careful concern, genuine understanding, no question asked. The other often gets some version of, "You'll get over it," or "It's not that big a deal," or a slightly awkward, dismissive shrug. But if your brain's actual wiring doesn't draw nearly as sharp a line between those two experiences as your culture apparently does, that mismatch in how seriously each one gets treated starts to look like a real, meaningful blind spot worth correcting. There's another layer to this that rarely gets mentioned, and it has to do with how your body handles rejection differently depending on who's doing the rejecting. You might assume a stranger's disapproval would barely register compared to being rejected by someone close to you, and that's mostly true, but not entirely in the way you'd expect. Some follow-up work building on Eisenberger's original findings has shown that even rejection from people you actively dislike, people whose opinion you'd swear doesn't matter to you at all, can still trigger measurable activity in that same pain-related brain region. Your rejection alarm system, it turns out, doesn't check your conscious opinion of someone before deciding whether their exclusion counts as a threat. It fires first, almost reflexively, and lets your rational mind sort out the details afterward. This also helps explain something oddly specific that a lot of people experience but rarely talk about directly: the strange physical exhaustion that follows a period of social rejection, even a minor one. It's not just sadness. People commonly describe it as genuine fatigue, a heaviness in the body that feels closer to recovering from an illness than processing an emotion. That makes a lot more sense once you realize your body may be allocating real physiological resources toward that pain response, the same way it would after a physical injury, complete with something resembling an actual recovery period afterward. Here's the modern mirror, and it's honestly where all of this becomes uncomfortably relevant to your actual daily life. Your ancient rejection alarm system evolved for a world of small, tight-knit tribes where the number of meaningful social bonds a single person had to track and maintain was genuinely small, maybe a few dozen people over an entire lifetime tops. Exclusion in that world was rare, and when it happened, it was almost always significant, tied to something real and consequential. Now look at your actual week. A message left unread for 6 hours. A story you posted that nobody bothered to react to. A group photo where you notice with a small internal wince that you weren't tagged. A comment that got dozens of replies from other people but got completely ignored when you posted the exact same kind of thing yourself. None of these events would have even been technically possible in the small tribe environment your rejection alarm system originally evolved to monitor and protect you within. And yet each one still fires that exact same ancient alarm, full volume, every single time, regardless of how genuinely trivial the actual social stakes are in the moment. Social media didn't invent the sting of rejection. It didn't create this ancient wiring out of nothing. What it did was hand that ancient wiring an overwhelming, non-stop stream of new, tiny opportunities to feel excluded, dozens, sometimes literally hundreds of times a single day. At a volume and constant frequency your evolutionary alarm system was never designed to reasonably handle. A system built to fire rarely for genuinely high-stakes social threats is now firing constantly for social stakes that are frequently close to zero in any real, practical sense. So the next time you catch yourself feeling genuinely hurt by something that logically seems way too small to justify that particular level of hurt, a slow reply, an unanswered message, a friend who seemed a little distant at lunch, try not to immediately talk yourself out of that feeling or dismiss it as an overreaction. Your brain isn't malfunctioning in that specific moment. It's running exactly the program it was built to run, the same ancient circuitry that once meant the literal difference between life and death for your ancestors, just aimed now at stakes your ancestors could genuinely never have imagined. That ache in your chest when the reply doesn't come? It's not weakness, and it was never really about the text message itself. It's a few 100,000 years of survival instinct quietly doing exactly its job, in a world that changed considerably faster than your biology ever could.
If you liked this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Hit that notification bell for more. See you on the next one.